Hi everybody, Mr. Owens here again. I'm going to keep going over adding and subtracting rational numbers because this is a really difficult topic and you just need to see a bunch of examples. So I'm going to do a couple more problems with you. I want to remind you before we get started though to be patient with yourself and be kind to yourself because you will make a lot of mistakes and this will be very confusing. So just make sure that you keep trying and don't get too down on yourself, all right? So let's try this problem. Negative 1 and 25 hundredths minus negative 3/4. So before you start freaking out about this, I promise you it won't be quite as difficult as you might think it is. Here, you'll see that it might be really helpful to be able to convert these numbers into fractions or decimals. So decimals into fractions, fractions into decimals. And I will explain a couple different ways to do this problem, all right? So for the first thing we need to do is we need to figure out which way we're facing. So remember, you start at the first number. So let's start, all right, negative 1.25 on the number line. And here's our person, we're facing forwards. And we need to ask ourselves, okay, we're starting at this spot. And we look at the numbers, everything that happens after the first number. Oops, sorry about that. And we need to ask ourselves, how many negative signs do we see after the first number? So here we have 1, and here we have 2. Remember, subtraction signs and negative signs are the same thing now, okay? So we have 2 negative signs. So that means we're going to turn around for each negative sign. So turn around once for the first one, and then we have the second one, we're going to turn around again. So that means we're still going to be moving to the right, all right? So that's a really, really, really important thing to know. We're going to be moving to the right. We're going to be moving forwards, okay? So let's get started now. I'm going to erase the person because we know which way we're moving, just because we have a lot more to do. So we know we're going to be moving 3/4 to the right. And again, this is one of those things in the beginning of the year and in 6th grade you should have memorized your benchmark fractions. And you should know that 1/4 is 0.25. So that means that 3/4, right? 3/4 is 75 cents, so 3/4 is 0.75. So we're going to be moving 0.75, okay? And there's a couple different ways to do this. So if you remember, we're going to be moving 0.75, and I would go to the nearest whole number to make this easy for ourselves. And I would ask you, okay, how far is it from negative 1.25 to negative 1? And I hope you would be able to answer that it's 0.25 is the distance. So if we're going a distance of 0.75 and we've gone a distance of 0.25 already, this must be 0.50. So I'm going to ask you now, what is 0.50 more to the right of negative 1? And that answer is negative 0.50, all right? And obviously I messed up the drawing a little bit here. So this would actually most likely look like this, something like this. Okay, so then this would be negative 0.50. And that's going to be your answer, right? So that'll be our answer, negative 0.50. But there's also another way to do this that I think is a little bit easier. You might think I'm crazy, but I think that using fractions is actually a little bit easier. So let me go over that. So we're going to start, same thing, start at negative 1.25. We know we're moving to the right by 3/4. So I am going to actually write out what the fractions are here. So this is negative 1.25. And you should be able to know that this is negative 1 and 1/4, right? Because we know that 0.25 equals 1/4. Again, you should have that memorized. So this is negative 1 and 1/4, which is the same thing as negative 5/4, okay? Negative 5/4. So then I'm just going to count by fourths. So I know I'm going to go 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, right? So this is like 1/4, 1/4, 1/4 to make a total distance of 3/4. And if you don't know exactly what is 1/4 to the right of negative 1 and 1/4, it's going to be negative 4/4. And then here we'll have negative 3/4, and here we'll have negative 2/4. And that's going to be your answer. This is negative 1, negative 3/4, negative 1/2. And that's just going to be your answer right there. So that's another way to do it, and I think that's a little bit easier actually, because you're just counting. Let me show you one more way to do it using this same fraction strategy. So remember the problem was negative 1.25 minus negative 3/4. And just to think about the fractions involved, if this is negative 1 and 1/4 minus negative 3/4, and then this is negative 5. So these numbers are all the same number. They're all equivalent to each other. So all those times your teacher in 6th grade and maybe earlier in the year you had to convert fractions, decimals, and percents, this is why, okay? So in this problem, right, we know that the denominator is going to stay the same, because when you add or subtract fractions, the denominator stays the same. Then we have negative 5 minus negative 3. And you can do this using integers now, right? So here's negative 5 minus negative 3. Oh, pretend that's a person. Okay. So you turn around once, turn around twice, so we're going to move that way. Go 1, 2, 3, negative 4, negative 3, negative 2. So this equals negative 2/4, which is negative 1/2. Okay? So that's just another way to do this problem. I hope this example helped a little bit. Please feel free to email me, even if you're not in my class. Feel free to email me if you need any help.